right, good evening, everybody. I'm John Stedman, the chair of the City of Santa Barbara Harbor Commission, and I want to welcome you all to our regular meeting of October 19th, 2023. Vice Chair?
Great.
Do the roll call.
Sure. Yes, Ms. Rodriguez, can you please do a roll call for us?
Of course. Commissioner Anderson?
Here.
Commissioner Cohen?
Here.
Commissioner Ford?
Here.
Commissioner McCray,
Here.
Commissioner Nelson, Commissioner Stanowicz,
Here.
and Chair Stedman.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Chair Stedman, no changes tonight. Good to go.
Great. Let's keep up that trend. Any general public comment, Angela?
I have one speaker slip for someone in council chambers that would like to make general public comment, and I don't see any hands online, but if anyone would like to make a public comment online, please indicate that by clicking the raise hand icon. And I'm still not seeing any, but we'll go ahead with the first speaker. It's Nate Irwin.
Hi, how are we doing this evening, Commissioners? Thank you so much for having me. I'm here representing the Santa Barbara Channel Keeper. I'm the newest member of the Channel Keeper. I'm the policy associate, and born and raised in Santa Barbara, grew up on the Mesa, have a strong connection with the ocean, and something that I know that we all do. It's a cherished part of our coast and something that I feel really passionately about, and I know my organization feels passionately about, community members feel passionately about, and I'm sure that you all do as well. And I just wanted to let you know that I'm probably going to be taking over the initiatives for the Channel Keeper moving forward, and excited to do that and to help guide policy and any information that you need from the Channel Keeper. I'm here to help you with that. And yeah, I just remember the first time that the cruise ships came into Santa Barbara and just had so many questions. And the more I've dug into it and the more I've looked at the cruise ship industry, the more shocking it's become of what an effect it's had across the world, to ecosystems across the world. And just looking at it in our own special part of the Central Coast, and how we have the chance to not only protect our part of the Central Coast, but also to guide the cruise ship industry moving forward. And the Channel Keepers initiatives and our policy recommendations for the cruise ship program moving forward are definitely looking to strike a balance so that we can still keep the industry that is supported by the cruise ship industry there, and also make sure that we can protect our environment. So I just wanted to come and introduce myself and give you a chance to see my face and hear my voice, and look forward to working with you. So thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Nate. Anyone else?
Still seeing no hands online. Thank you.
All righty. Vice Chair?
Great. Thanks, Chair Stedman. Yeah, moving on to the work group reports. I don't believe any subcommittee or work group met, but would any member of the commission like to speak on behalf of any of those? Okay. Great. We can move on to the consent calendar. I know typically the consent calendar usually just has the approval of the minutes, but I believe we have a license agreement as well as a lease assignment, and the presentation is all kind of in the printed packet. So does anyone have any questions or comments from the commission on anything on the consent calendar? Okay, great. I guess we can move to reading of the consent calendar. Thanks.
Item number 1, approval of the minutes. Recommendation that Harbor Commission waive further reading and approve the minutes from the regular meeting of September 21st, 2023. Item number 2, proposed assignment of license agreement number 27014, Epic Cruises, Inc. for Santa Barbara Water Taxi. Recommendation that Harbor Commission review and recommend City Council approve the signed lease license agreement number 27014 from Epic Cruises, Inc., doing business as Santa Barbara Water Taxi, to Sagamore Stearns LLC for Little Toot Water Taxi Service. Item number 3, office lease assignment with Epic Cruises, Inc. at 125 Harbor Way, Suite number 14. Recommendation that Harbor Commission review and recommend City Council approve the assignment of lease agreement number 26,890 from Epic Cruises, Inc. to Sagamore Stearns LLC for office space located at 125 Harbor Way, Suite number 14.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. With that, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Commissioner Ford?
Aye.
Commissioner McCray?
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson? Commissioner Stanowicz?
Yes.
Chair Stedman?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you.
All right, moving right along here this evening. To new business. Angela, can you read item number 4, please?
Of course. Item number 4, proposed change of use and renovation of Brophy and Sons mercantile lease space. Recommendation that Harbor Commission receive a presentation from staff outlining a proposal received from Brophy and Sons, Inc. to convert the existing Brophy's mercantile retail space into a clam bar and incorporate into their existing restaurant lease space. A recommendation from the Harbor Commission will move this proposal forward to the Planning Commission to assess change of use of 119C Harbor Way from retail to restaurant space, excuse me.
Good evening, Chair Stedman, commissioners and members of the public. My name is Cesar Barrios. I am the Waterfront Business Manager, and today I bring to you an item regarding the change of use request from Brophy and Sons, Inc. The Waterfront Department recently, as of just a few months, received a proposal from Brophy's management and ownership to convert the existing Brophy's mercantile retail space located at 119 Harbor Way, Suite C, into a clam bar and incorporate this space into their existing restaurant lease area. On that regard, the recommendation from the Harbor Commission today will move this proposal forward to the Planning Commission to assess change of use of the 119C Harbor Way space from retail to restaurant. So here you have the current photos of the two locations. They're side by side. So the lease on the left, you have 119 Harbor Way Suite C, which is a retail store, known as the Brophy's Mercantile or this store. And on the right-hand side, you have Suite D, which is currently the small clam bar right below Brophy's restaurant. So the idea with this will be to combine the use of those two spaces by removing the wall in the middle. And here you have a conceptual proposal, how this change would eventually will look like. So on the left, you have the current two lease spaces. So in the yellow, you have the clam bar, and on the blue, the current retail store. And they're separated by the wall. So this change, as you can see on the right, would combine the spaces and turn the entire space, which is approximately 901 square feet, into a clam bar, and it would be added to the existing lease space from Brophy's. So with your recommendation today, the next steps in this process would include the change of use and review by the Planning Commission to determine whether the change from retail to restaurant is appropriate. This review will consider factors such as parking requirements, ADA accessibility, and overall impact on the surrounding area. Then, if the Planning Commission approves the change of use, Brophy and Sons, Inc. will be required to obtain a coastal development permit, as the property is located within the coastal zone. This permit will ensure compliance with all of our coastal policies and regulations. So with that, as part of this process, I asked the Harbor Commission to provide input and recommend whether this proposal from Brophy's and Sons, Inc. should be moved forward to the Planning Commission for review. There are a few factors to consider. First, the impact on harbor operations. Evaluate the potential impact of the proposed conversion on harbor operations and any associated concern or benefit. The compatibility, and number 2, with the existing uses. We'll have to assess compatibility of the clam bar with the surrounding area and neighboring businesses. Then at number 3 is compliance with regulations. So we must consider whether the proposal adheres to applicable zoning regulations, parking requirements, and the coastal policies. And with that, that ends my brief presentation. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Commissioner Nelson?
I'm all in favor of moving this proposal to the planning commission. But my question is, there's retail space and then there's restaurant space, food service space. Are the revenue sharing or the percentage of gross that you receive, base rents, will they all remain, are they the same now for the whole space? The retail space has the same percentage of gross requirements that the restaurant space has, or are they different?
Commissioner Nelson, they have different percentage rates. So yeah, the restaurant is generally much higher than a retail space.
So would it be the intent of the department, if the planning commission approves this, that our lease would have the retail space shift to the percentage of gross that we receive from the restaurant, or would it remain the same for the retail space? Whichever is higher, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Commissioner Nelson, good question. So the answer is yes. So then the portion that's now retail will be absorbed into the restaurant as a restaurant space, and then the formula to attain the cost per square footage will be based on the restaurant as likely existing to what we have right now with Brophy's.
Okay, final question is clam bar. I love oysters and I love mussels. Will they serve a variety of things, or are they just going to serve clam strips?
I believe they'll have a variety of
Okay.
seafood, including other items besides just clams. But that space will facilitate and greater use of that space.
That's great, thank you. And I want to add that Angela sent out a public comment where the ownership of Brophy's basically, asked us in a very nice way to consider moving this along to the planning commission. I really like that. I mean, we approve these leases in a very perfunctory way sometime. It's really good to hear from our vendors, and they recognize that we have a role in the public process. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Any other Commissioner McCray?
Oh, I have a question.
I think we have one or two more questions.
Oh, yeah, just a quick question. Just because I was looking at the Brophy Brothers website and I noticed that the downstairs is available to rent out full-time. If we open this up to another, bigger space, would that also be the case? Like, that would be able to be rented out, the entire thing for reservations? Or is that not going to be the case anymore? Just kind of wondering.
Well, this would modify the lease, so depending on the type of use, we have not had the conversation. It would be a different use of the current space, so the current clam bar downstairs from Brophy's, the dynamic is a little different than what they're proposing, so I don't have an answer for you, but I can reach out to the ownership and find
Okay.
out.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering. No, I'm in favor of it, so, yep, thanks.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Angela.
We have one speaker, Lauren Ballantyne.
Good evening. I'm Lauren Ballantyne. I'm an architect and the project manager for Sherry and Associates Architects, and we are assisting Brophy's with this. And so I just wanted to introduce myself, say hello, thank you for your consideration, and just make myself available if you have any additional questions. That's all.
All right, if there's no further comment and no further questions, we can entertain a motion.
I move the Harbor Commission recommend Brophy Brothers Clam Bar proposal move forward to the Planning Commission for their consideration.
I second that motion.
Angela?
Commissioner Cohen,
Yes.
Commissioner Ford,
Aye.
Commissioner McCray,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Stanowick,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson. Aye. And Chair Stedman.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to item number 5.
Item number 5, proposed closure of seasonal anchorage. Recommendation that Harbor Commission receive a presentation from Public Works staff outlining the proposed closure of the seasonal summer anchorage near Stearns Wharf due to concerns with submerged desalination and wastewater infrastructure. Discuss and take action as necessary.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jeanette Prusinski here, Acting Harbor Operations Manager. Very pleased to present you a joint report today. We have 2 other city staff members here to my right. We have Bradley Rare, who's our Principal Project Manager, and Beth Anna Cornett is our Environmental Planner. And maybe you remember a few years ago, Beth Anna presented during COVID. Do you remember I believe, on our sediment management program? Yes. So we are going to present you with a modification of the seasonal anchorage area. Okay. So Public Works brought this issue to our attention a number of months ago, where they have 2 water plants, the desal plant and the El Estero water plant, and there are 2 pipelines that go through the seasonal anchorage area. So it's their assets, but that their infrastructure does go right through the middle of our anchorage area. So I'd like to let them explain to you what's been going on with the city assets.
Thank you, Jeanette. So as Jeanette said, we have a desalination intake structure that is located roughly 3/4 of a mile out in the ocean, right in seasonal anchorage area. And that structure consists of 2.
What is your name, please?
Sorry, my name is Bradley Rare, Principal Project Manager with Public Works.
Okay, thank you.
And so that structure consists of 2-chamber structure, which has a fiberglass grate on the top, and inside that structure has submersible pumps and electronic equipment that ultimately sends water onshore for our desalination plant. Additionally, as Jeanette was saying, we have a 1.5 mile long outfall pipeline that's a 48-inch reinforced concrete pipe that also goes through Area 1, which is a seasonal anchorage. And at the end of that has a diffuser system that safely discharges the disinfected secondary effluent from El Estero, as well as the brine, which is the byproduct from our desalination plant. Those 2 are commingled, and they're discharged through that pipeline out to a point where it's safe to discharge. And those are part of our National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permits to operate those facilities. And so both of those pipes have been out there for many years now. The desalination plant, as you probably know, was reactivated in 2015, and so there's been a lot of work recently out there. But since we've reactivated it, we periodically go out and do inspections, and we've found that at least on 2 occasions, we've had what we believe are anchor strikes on top of the fiberglass grate that's on top of that desal intake structure. So that's evidence showing that there may be concern that anchors or folks that are using the seasonal anchorage area, and they probably don't even know, potentially have the potential to damage the pipelines that are bisecting this area. And so it's definitely got our concern, which is why we reached out to our waterfront folks and started a conversation regarding this potential initiative.
So on this slide that you see here, the 2 pipelines going through the seasonal anchorage area on the left of the 3 areas, what you're looking at in general over this whole field is 2 anchorage areas. So you've got the seasonal anchorage area here. It is open 6 months out of the year, from April through October, so it's about to close here at the end of this month. The other free anchorage area is on the border between the city property and county property. It is open year-round. In the middle of the 2 areas, in this section here, is our permitted mooring field. So it's a little different than anchoring. You have mooring tackle that's deployed. And what you're not seeing on this image, there's another layer where there's circular sites that are permitted to individuals. It's an annual permit for people to deploy their own mooring tackle set. So as you see with the two pipes that traverse the seasonal anchorage, when you carve out a safe zone, the red hash marks there represent a 300-foot buffer on either side of the pipe. You're essentially carving out a majority of the free anchorage area. So, you know, there's several things that come to the waterfront department's attention when you carve out a big swath like this. Is, you know, one option is just to eliminate the anchorage area altogether. Another option is to, you know, allow anchoring, then no anchoring, then mooring, and then anchoring, which really is problematic operationally as far as enforcing the designated areas. So we are in essentially early kind of conversations about what's going on and how to permanently resolve it. Beth Anna here works with the permitting, and she's the one who would work with the state to possibly update permits and, sure.
Hi, I'm Beth Anna Cornett. I'm a senior planner in Public Works. And so what we've done is we've had initial conversations with the California Coastal Commission about potential closure of the seasonal anchorage. Some of their concerns or questions have to do with probably your concerns or questions as to where would those boaters go if they can't be in this seasonal anchorage. And as you know, it closes half of the year, so they go to the year-round anchorage or they enroll in the mooring program, which has some cost, but they can, or they leave the area. And so they've asked us to collect a little bit of data on that, of the uses of the seasonal anchorage. So we're going to be doing that, just to, like on a particular day, like how many boats are there? Because every day that collection of boats that is present in that area is always changing. It's a dynamic environment. It's not monitored currently by the waterfront department, other than maybe if there's a health or safety concern, they might go out and support them, but I don't really know those details. But they're not part of the harbor community necessarily. They're just a adjacent community of boaters with this open field where they can basically kind of do whatever they want, and which has been a little bit of an issue. We have this program for the mooring program was established in I think it was 2006. And the intent of the mooring program is to make an affordable, secure way for boat storage out in the ocean as an alternative to the harbor. It's obviously not as safe as the harbor, but the seasonal moorings, the ground tackle or the anchors associated with those are not as secure. We still have boats running ashore. As you know, with the January storms, we had a few boats run ashore. So there's all these components to it, environmental reasons, management reasons. But the Coastal Commission, it has an interest in this project and in retaining access and use of recreational maritime activity and uses of the ocean. So they've expressed interest in potentially keeping it partially open, but we need to quantify the amount of boats that are currently there. Is there a quantifiable amount of space readily available in the annual anchorage? And if not the annual anchorage that's to the east, it could be even in the county, which is to the further east. There's no prohibition of that. That's just outside of the city's jurisdiction. So we will be collecting some information to share with them, but we wanted to hear what your thoughts were today.
Commissioner McCray?
Yeah, I look at this and what I see I'm a longtime mariner. What I see is that little cove there from the harbor east for about half a mile or so is an especially calm area that's been used as an anchorage for at least 300 years by vessels that come and visit the Santa Barbara area. And it's not chosen because it was close to town. The town was built because it was close to that anchorage. And so when I look at the proposal here, what I'm seeing is that the pipelines are actually built into an area that has traditionally been used as an anchorage, and I think that should be considered. My thought is that there should be an opportunity taken to do some careful thinking about what the options truly are and see if there can be one that's a little bit more elegant than just closing that anchorage. If it comes to armoring the pipelines better or armoring over the intakes or redesigning the intakes in order to allow those spaces to still be used by seasonal mariners, I think that would be a good option, for example. But it would be especially sad to see that part of that anchorage go. Thank you.
Commissioner Cohen?
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions. Do we know right now how many, I'm not seeing it in here, or am I missing it? How many boats are in that area on average?
Right now, in the seasonal anchorage, we have roughly 30 vessels, roughly. And in the year-round anchorage, we have probably 9, maybe 10.
And this area does, though, close down. It's only open for, is it 6 months? Or?
The seasonal anchorage is open 6 months of the year. We call it the summer anchorage is its nickname. The summer anchorage is open from April 1st through October 31st. So it's closed November shortly here.
Is it mostly, I mean, what is the use in that area? Is it fishing boats or people?
They're anchored.
Okay.
So it's a mix of, we have regulars who are anchored all the time. And then we have people who are just passing through and anchor for just a brief period of time before they move on to their journey.
Okay. And then on the strikes that did happen, was there an estimate of what the cost was to repair those strikes, or was it just, is there any information on the actual damage that happened?
Commissioner Cohen, we currently don't operate the desal plant with city staff. It's done through a contractor, and the contractor has not provided us the cost to replace this grate. What happened was essentially when our divers went down there, they discovered that the grate had been ripped off in one instance. The other instance when it was just damaged. So the grate itself is not of most of the concern, but it is evidence that anchors are potentially hitting our intake structure. There's pipelines down there and other electrical equipment that does come out of the pipeline for a short amount of time, and so there is a potential that it could be a safety hazard if somebody were to drop an anchor and it dragged and hit it. So the damage could be much more significant than this, this has just got our attention right now.
And then my last question, I mean, I didn't know any of this was, exactly where it is. I mean, is there any concern, is this communicated to cruise ships? I mean, is there any concern that there could be a larger damage with a larger vessel? Is this the area where they're putting those types of boats? I have no idea.
I'll let the waterfront department address the cruise ships, but.
No, Commissioner Cohen, the anchor point that we provide cruise ships and larger visiting vessels is not in this area.
Not in this area, okay.
I will note that Public Works has installed a new buoy out there recently, though, to note the location of the intake structure so that nobody does set up right on top of it.
Okay, and when will this go back to Coastal Commission, or when will that conversation happen if we wanted to watch it?
We've only been talking with staff at Coastal Commission in the Ventura office, so we have a coastal development permit for the project, which is the East Beach Mooring and Anchorage Program, which is this whole set of of locations. That permit is, we had a coastal commission hearing. We have had a few, like, special conditions that needed to be met. The last special condition was actually met this week, and now we're waiting for our permit to be issued. To, whatever we decide as an organization, the city, to pursue, we would bring that back to the Coastal Commission as probably an amendment to that permit. And it could, if it was considered material and substantial enough, it could open it up to needing to have a subsequent hearing. It could be where it's on a consent calendar as well, depending on the level of interest by the coastal analysts.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
I think so. I mean, sounds like you don't know.
Yeah, basically, we're just in early, as it was stated, we're in early conversations and trying to better understand the intent of this body and, you know, what is feasible, what is reasonable. We need to speak with you, then we need to actually go to ordinance committee and then planning commission. So this isn't just one body that hears this idea. So.
I guess I'll just say that, you know, I share the same concerns, especially if there's 30 boats out there. Right now, that's a lot of people to impact, and I'd need to at least understand the damage. If it's, you know, at this point, if there's another way to handle it, then obviously we would, you know, be in favor of some, or I should say, I speak for myself, I would be in favor of looking at those options before we moved everyone out of an area that has been an anchorage point for a very, very long time.
Commissioner Nelson?
Given what Merritt said about the long-standing use of this area as an anchorage and the controversy associated with siting a desal facility, I'm surprised that during the earlier reviews by either I guess it was the Regional Water Quality Control Board and/or the Coastal Commission, that this wasn't raised when they either reconsidered the NPDES permit or now with the coastal development permit. And now you're explaining to us all the work that has to be done to do this good idea. Is it really necessary that we do this?
So Commissioner, just to clarify how the desal plant came to be, so in the early 90s when we were in a severe drought situation, the city's desalination plant was installed under an emergency permit. And what it used was actually the El Estero original outfall that's about 100 years old. So when they placed that outfall, when we started collecting sewage and treating it here in Santa Barbara, they put an outfall out. When we developed the desal plant, we used that pipeline, and so we reversed flow and we lined that outfall. So we didn't really have a say recently on where that pipeline went. It wasn't like we reinstalled that. You're correct, though, in that a lot of review went in as far as a coastal development permit, and so we're at this point now where we have pipelines, you know, currently under a program that the city oversees, and so we're hoping to find some kind of compromise ultimately to protect critical infrastructure while also evaluating, as Beth Anna said, you know, the desires and intent of the Waterfront Department and this commission to decide, is there something we can do in order to help prevent future damage for two critical assets that the city owns?
Commissioner Ford?
Thanks. One question, Area 3, the year-round anchorage, can you give me an idea where that is on Cabrillo?
That is, so what you're seeing right here is the county line, so maybe the Clark Estate is right where the letter M is.
Thanks.
That's correct. And it's I would say it's the Cabrillo, the pavilion that's down there, and then over to the Clark Estate.
Right.
Be landmarks that you could reference.
Thanks. I agree with my fellow commissioners that I'd like to find a different solution than closing that anchorage. I think anchoring in Area 3 is very different from anchoring in Area 1 in my experience, and I wonder if there's a better way to help boaters in that area understand what's in that area, et cetera, rather than closing it off.
And I would like to talk again, too.
Can I so one of the pieces of data that hasn't been discussed is the actual mooring field that's there. It has availability for 68. 46, sorry, numbers got flipped around. 46 moorings can be there. It's the capacity, that's the total capacity, and currently it's only at 43% use. So if someone does want to be a year-round person using this facility, using that acreage, that is available to people. Obviously, there's a cost to it, and there's an annual fee, and it's monitored as well by the city staff.
And I feel it's worth mentioning, and just to add for food for thought, is that the seasonal anchorage is closed for 6 months of the year already. The regulars already relocate to the year-round anchorage and have been doing so for years. The seasonal anchorage, I tried to look back in my records to see when that changed, if it went, when it went from an annual or year-round anchorage to a seasonal. I wasn't able to find when that was. Maybe Commissioner McCray would know. He's very educated on this. But yes, that's on our mind as well, is, displacing the body of boats further out. But they all go to the regulars do all go to the year-round anchorage, and that's during the winter. It's worth mentioning that as well. Come November 1, that's when the bad weather window starts. So they spend essentially the bad weather window in that further anchorage already, and have been doing so for decades and decades.
I have a couple of questions. What's the cost for the Area 2 mooring?
A mooring permit, it's an annual permit, Chair Stedman. It costs $350 for the year to the, it's $350 now. It's $350 for the year, payable to the city. The mooring tackle is private property, so they do buy their tackle from the contractor. So a brand-new tackle set, maybe, depending on your size of your boat, maybe in upwards, maybe no more than $7,000 for brand-new tackle set, and then average annual maintenance cost, maybe an average of $1,000 per year to repair and maybe replace chain. But you're looking.
And my second question is, if we eliminate Area 1 and the regulars, as you've mentioned, permanently start anchoring out in 3, and we have our inevitable, escapes during storms, and they wash up on the beach, is it more problematic if they wash up more eastwardly than where they would wash up in current Area 1?
Well, there are different issues with each area. The first thing that comes to mind is access. So say the boat breaks apart on the beach. It's possibly easier to access if there's, Cabrillo Boulevard, and you can just drive, Marburg drives right onto the sand. There's an area that's hard to get to right around the corner. So it might be more of a challenge for Marburg to access that area.
And Chair Stedman, just to clarify, the majority of the boats that hit the beach happen in the winter, and so the summer anchorage is closed in the winter anyway, so they're already in that easterly space.
Got it. Thank you very much. Yes, Vice Chair?
You have a question regarding Area 2. That's the permanent mooring area. Is there any way to find like a compromise where there could also be anchoring in there, or is it kind of just going to be permanent mooring and that's it going forward?
That's a good question. Thank you for that. So from my perspective, it would take some policy update, municipal code update, and a resolution, which is relatively easy from my perspective, but maybe Beth Anna can weigh in because this designated area is by permit. So we would have to look into updating our permit with the state.
Just before Beth
Yeah,
hops
go
in, Commissioner Stanwyck, just from a policy level too, the mooring field is a much safer, better program in open water. We would strive to have policy to drive people to a mooring field. So to unwind a mooring field and expand an area of free anchorage in open water would be not necessarily a good move from the waterfront's perspective, just because you're putting more people at risk and more open water anchorage. So would much rather try and find ways, inventive ways to have more people on mooring balls. To date, no boat on a mooring ball has hit the beach. These are all boats that are anchored in open water. And so it'd be tough for us just policy-wise to get behind something that kind of unwinds a mooring field and creates more open ocean anchorage space.
Okay, yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, I definitely share the concerns of the other commissioners, and definitely, like Commissioner McCray said, I'm a liveaboard at the harbor, and I know personally a lot of people or a handful of people who are living partially at the anchorage and partially coming in at visitor slips, and, they kind of bounce between the two for the most part. And I know for them, it's to be out at the Area 3 year-round. I mean, just to give you guys a frame of reference, I mean, they are anchoring there more or less by the volleyball courts and taking their skiff or dinghy all the way from Area 3 to the dinghy dock at right in front of West Marine and the waterfront office. I mean, that's pretty far. And to be doing that year-round and not have that nice break over the summer, it would be substantial for a lot of people who are, I mean, that's where they're living. So I just want to share my thoughts on that. But yeah, I would be supporting, to look at some other options before we said, okay, let's definitely close this part, because I know a lot of people would be affected by it.
Commissioner McCray?
Yes. I actually had three different comments to make and a question, and then two of my fellow commissioners asked two of them, which is great. It would be a long and in the afternoon upwind paddle from Area 3 if you're going to try to paddle in to the dinghy dock. Mostly it strikes me that intake for the desal plant is inserted into a pipeline that has survived being anchored on for 100 years. Is that the case?
Yes, Commissioner McCray. So that pipeline is a concrete pipe that's lined in 1990 with HDPE. So it's been retrofitted and ultimately strengthened. So again, that is not as much of our concern as the actual intake structure that's out there. So that's a big concrete vault essentially with mechanical equipment. So again, the strength of that system wasn't designed necessarily for things hitting it. It was more for normal wave action and sitting there structurally holding pumps. But yeah, you're right. That pipe has been out there for roughly 100 years is my estimate.
I think there's plenty of room for additional thought in this. Thank you.
Bradley, can you define outfall, please?
Sure. So El Estero treats roughly 6.5 million gallons a day of our wastewater to a safe discharge standard. And we also blend our brine, which is about 3 million gallons of higher strength seawater, with that to get it diluted back. And that all is conveyed through this outfall pipe. It's a 48-inch diameter concrete pipe. And the diffusers that we use are actually about where you see the word discharge. So they're right at the end. The last, I think, 700 feet is a diffuser system. And so for the most part, that pipe is in some cases buried under some sand, but also exposed based on wave action. And so we inspect it annually, and that's how we kind of have a visual on whether or not it's in good shape. That's part of our NPDES permit as well. So we do have measures where we are visually inspecting it. And to Commissioner McCray's point, we haven't seen a lot of clear evidence of damage yet that causes that violation. But if there was a strike, that could immediately trigger a violation as soon as we found it, and we would have to go back and report that to the regional board, and we would ultimately have quite a bit of reporting and work on our hands.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the commission? Commissioner Anderson?
Yes. Regarding the discharge pipe, is there, I see it crosses and the majority of it looks like it's somewhat down wave action, but is there an instance where if the discharge pipe was struck, the discharge water would be going in the intake?
That could be the case, yes.
Okay. And then also, just to clarify, the discharge pipe is sewage and not just the water being treated for the desal plant?
Correct. The discharge pipe or the outfall is, the treatment plant treats everything to a disinfected secondary treatment standard. So this is a standard in the industry, or at least in California, that we're required to treat to. It's a technical term, but essentially it's safe for discharge because it's been disinfected, preventing bacteria or viruses into the, ultimately being released into the environment. We here at the city, because of the nexus with the desal plant, we also add brine to it in order to dilute it. So it's a blend of most of the time it's a blend of two sources of water.
And how does the distance, I'm curious about the discharge in particular, because we're speaking about cruise ships and how they're supposed to be discharging 12 miles out of their sewage, and how their sewage is the same level of treatment the majority of the time as this sewage. This is very close and a lot more, versus the cruise ships are 12 miles out and less. So what is how is everyone okay with how close that is?
That's a very good question, Commissioner.
Great question.
Yeah. And so I'm not familiar with how cruise ships diffuse their sewage and what treatment level they do. That would most likely be a regional board question, and that might be a reason why they're discharging 12 miles out, is to avoid some of the regional board concerns. That's something they have to deal with in its federal waters. I happen to used to work at El Estero, so I have a pretty good in-depth knowledge on this. And we were conditioned when the El Estero treatment plant was retrofitted in the late 70s in order to comply with the Clean Water Act, where we converted from the old what is shown now as the intake to the new outfall. We were conditioned by the regional board at that time to extend our outfall past a safe point of discharge. So that was analyzed and determined at that time from an environmental standpoint that the 1.5 miles out is a safe point of discharge. I will point out there are 5 other sanitary districts or agencies on the South Central Coast. Not all of them are out that far. And so they have different conditions on their permits than we do, but we comply with our regional board permit.
And what year again was that decided?
I believe 1978 is what I recall from the plans at El Estero when they started building the new version of the treatment plant at that time.
And have there been newer treatment plants since then on the coast, and do we know how far they discharge out? Is it the same distance, further? Does it depend on the conditions?
It definitely depends on the conditions, but most of the other treatment plants were established at the same time or even earlier than what the 1978 version of this plant is. And so some of them were grandfathered in under a shorter outfall. I can't speak to all the numbers exactly how far, but I do know that El Estero is one of the longer ones out.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Cohen?
We're touching on a lot of topics here. I just wanted to go back to the map and the mooring area versus the anchorage area. And I assume that most of the individuals that are in the anchorage area, when we talk about the mooring area, that's fairly expensive if you're going to be putting in the mooring. Is that right? And that is the person's cost? Is that how that works?
It is the person's cost, yes, ma'am.
And I know that there have been just very casual conversations about perhaps at some point having the city invest in putting some moorings in so that those could be more affordable to people that are coming in to rent them. Has that been thought of as an option to make it so that these individuals could transition into a mooring area and have a mooring? Is that something that is at all being considered by the waterfront?
Commissioner Cohen, yeah, we talk about that sort of thing and conceptually discuss it. Obviously, there's a huge cost to it to the city. So we, Harbor Commission, Waterfront, can make a decision to subsidize that sort of behavior. We can choose to use our budget to put mooring balls out there and undercharge people, or we can put mooring balls out there and try and make it a cost recovery program. There's a number of ways to handle that. I think there's room for improvement with the way we operate our mooring field. But how we do that and if we want to subsidize it or how the dollars lay out, that's kind of a budget discussion.
Okay, and one other question, the little space in between the mooring area and the anchorage area, is there a reason for that? I mean, it pops out at me.
I don't.
Commissioner Cohen, I don't honestly know that this map is exactly accurate with nautical maps, and so this is more of sort of a spatial representation, from my understanding.
Yeah, in our other charts, Commissioner Cohen, I have seen that gap, and I have asked other colleagues of mine, and I have to tell you, I don't know, and I was wondering if somebody was going to ask that, so I'm glad you did, but unfortunately, I'm very curious, so in these things I pay attention to, so as I figure that out, I will let you know.
That's the carpool lane, Commissioner
I was
Cohen.
gonna say, is that like the express lane out? It seems like that's where the discharge pipe should have gone.
Oh, Commissioner Cohen, just kind of thinking about it logically, what it may be is so mooring radiuses kind of go right up to that line of the mooring field.
Oh,
If you have
see.
people anchoring right up to the line of a mooring field, they can essentially sway into a mooring field, and so you want to have some separation between those two.
That makes perfect sense. I think that's probably.
The swing circle, right? Commissioner McCray?
Yeah, it seems like here we've gotten into the realm of thinking of this as where are people going to put their permanent mooring for their boat? Or are they going to permanently anchor out there in the Area 1, or are they going to go to Area 3, or are they going to get a mooring? But in reality, I think the culture which is important is the one where people come in and visit it and throw the hook down and spend a couple of days and they paddle their skiff in and then they go on their merry way. And that is really what I think that Area 1 seasonal anchorage is, how we should think of it being all about. I know that there are people that use all 6 months or whatever it is and just keep their boat there full time and, maybe trade in and out of visitor slips during the winter. But in reality, I think what's important is that traditional culture of gunk holing, and you go over to Catalina Island and spend a few days there and rent a mooring there and then go into the isthmus and drink a moose milk or whatever it is they have there, and then you head on up to Santa Barbara and spend a couple of days, and maybe you try to get around Point Conception and you spend a week there waiting, and then you give up and go back down to LA. Whatever it is, that's the kind of thing that I think we need to think about here with respect to Area 1. Thank you.
Commissioner Nelson?
And my final comment is, I have, in my dealings with the Coastal Commission and the Regional Water Quality Control Board, if they think there's a problem, they're pretty quick to tell you. And if they want to recommend that we close off access to boating, let the Coastal Commission tell you that, and then come back to us and let us know, because I think you asked us to discuss this and take the necessary action, and I'm not convinced that there's a necessary action to take other than to perhaps ask the regulatory bodies to weigh in on this, because I don't see it.
Well, I think the idea is definitely developing. Commissioner Cohen?
I mean, my understanding is it's going to be closed for 6 months, right? So we have 6 months to try to talk about it and come up with a solution that works. So I would hope that, I don't know if we need a motion or not, but I would say, let's look at what the solutions could be.
No, not at all. This was definitely step one in a long process. This is more informational than action-based. It's nice to hear all of your thoughts. If you were cohesive with some of that, you could make a motion, but it's really not expected tonight.
Great.
I really want to see some alternatives. I think there's a way to make this work for everyone.
Very well. Any public comment, Angela?
I'm not seeing any hands raised, and I haven't received any speaker slips in the council chambers. But if anyone would like to speak, they can indicate that by clicking the raise hand icon. still don't see any speakers.
Okay. It doesn't appear that there's any action and no motions being put forth. So we will, unless there are any other questions on housing or any other matters, maybe the formation of a working group to study it, we'll move right on to the next item, department update. Thank you, Bradley and Beth.
All right, on to me. So good evening. Again, Mike Wiltshire, Waterfront Director. So I have one quick item tonight to discuss. Next slide, Jeanette. So this is more of a reminder than anything. So last year we did a priority setting workshop at the start of the year. So the plan and the hope is to do that again. We do have at least one new commissioner who didn't participate in last January's priority setting workshop. So the proposed date for the priority setting workshop is January 9th at 4 o'clock. That works for staff. Hopefully that works for the group. Like, you can get back to me individually if it does not. Again, we'd have it at the Waterfront classroom. One takeaway is that this would be a Brown Act meeting because you're all together in one space and discussing harbor-related topics, but it'd be more of a workshop-style format, so a little bit more informal. We utilized an interactive software last year to sort of gather input quickly. From a staff's point of view, that was really useful, a way to kind of consolidate thoughts and get your guys' input fairly quickly. Mentimeter? Mentimeter, yeah. Next slide. And really the objectives of the workshop are for us to review the charter and kind of the task of the Harbor Commission. We can review our topics and accomplishments and agenda items that we covered in this current year, 2023, so sort of a little bit of a recap. And then start prioritizing topics for 2024. And really on our end, staff's goal is to gather input from all Harbor Commissioners so we can kind of direct next year's work. Next slide.
May I ask a quick question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Director? Commissioner Nelson, and maybe we should comment on this. Are you willing to accept input from the commission before we have this meeting?
Yeah, yes, I'm all, in my next couple of slides, you're kind of you're reading my mind.
Okay.
Just as a reminder and kind of at a high level, there's a few types of items that we typically address on any given Harbor Commission agenda. So there's things that are routine and required. And so in the charter, there are things that the Harbor Commission is required to do, electing a chair, being a part of appeals. And so from time to time, there's mandatory business we have to take care of. Routine and not required. And so these are things like lease activity decisions and other things that we do on a regular basis, on a recurring basis, budget updates, but they're not necessarily required by the charter. And then our new business agenda items, and these are typically these kind of longer one-off policy discussions that take anywhere from a year to 18 months to 2 years. And so those are really the big ones that we want to grapple with and kind of decide where our priorities are, because both staff and Harbor Commission only have so much bandwidth to kind of tackle any of those given big policy moves in any given year. Next slide. So just to get the mental juices flowing, here's a kind of a list of things that came up in last year's priority setting workshop, as well as things that have come up throughout the year that we haven't gotten to. This is not an exhaustive list, but just kind of an idea of the things that we'd be talking about at the priority setting workshop to get your guys' feedback on what you think we should deal with as a top priority. Next slide. And so back one slide. And so I thought I had a slide, but to Chair Stedman's point, between now and then, I think the easiest way to handle that is if anybody, I can send out a list of all of the priority topics that we've been talking about that have come up in a meeting. We have an ongoing list. I'll send that out to the commission. Individually, if there's anything that you would like to see on that list, you can just email me directly, and then we will address it as a group at the January priority setting meeting. So if the list that we send out to you is not exhaustive, or there's something that came up or something that you'd like to see on there for the group to prioritize, then between now and January, you can email me your thoughts directly. Next slide. And that's it.
Commissioner Nelson?
I'm just curious, I guess, I got the sense from your memo, I mean, I love this idea, and I think it's great that we would be getting together in January. But my question is this, fundamentally, is this a list of topics that you think we ought to take a look at? Or is this a list of topics that we think you should take a look at? Because I got the feeling in your memo that agendas and planning for these meetings is our responsibility, not yours. We'll give you a list of topics. Let's talk about the list that we think's relevant. If it's not, and we get to submit topics that we feel independent of the waterfront department, is that fair game?
Well, great question. So fundamentally, boards and commissions, staff sets agendas for boards and commissions. So it's staff brings items to boards and commissions, but there is room for, if there's business that staff needs to get taken care of, policy, what we need to push forward, of course, we bring it to you as an advisory board. But just like last year's priority workshop setting, we would love your guys' input on is commercial fishing policy versus anchorage policy versus vessel insurance. Where does that stack up? These are all things that are on our staff to-do list. So it would be nice to align with Harbor Commission on where you stand with that. And yes, if there's brand new topics, we'd love to hear them.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to put excuse me, Commissioner McRae, do you want to make a comment?
I do have a comment, but go ahead.
I was just going to say, to put a finer point on Commissioner Nelson's question, I believe the genesis, for bringing this topic up originally, sometime in '22, was so that we could receive more clarity on the strategic direction of not only the waterfront department or, the responsibility of the Harbor Commission in terms of setting some clear strategic initiatives. So that might be inherent in your point, Commissioner Nelson.
It is, but I'm just delighted that this has become part of the routine. The waterfront department, that they're actually going to have a priority setting, so I hate to be critical of that. Just wanted to clarify, would we be able to submit items that encourage a new strategic direction or plan? And it sounds as though that is in fact the case. And I think this whole brouhaha about let's blow up the standing committees in favor of a work group was a reflection of the workload that standing committees placed upon staff. And I heard Doimus very carefully say to me in response that one of the advantages of the workshop is you guys get to do the work because we don't have the time. So I took from that we don't have the time to do everything you guys might want to look into. And if that's the case, you may have to do it on your own or figure that out. We'll provide as much assistance as we can budget and find the time for. And I'm comfortable with that, to be honest with you. So let's do it in January.
Commissioner McRae?
Yeah, I think that general procedure is that at any commission meeting, any commissioners can suggest an agenda topic for the subsequent meeting, and that the chair can actually, so long as he brings it to staff in time for it to be noticed, suggest any agenda item at any time. And so that leaves open the potential for any one of us to contact our chair and say, hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think about it? Could you put it on the agenda? And then have it up in a couple, 3 weeks. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Commissioner McRae, you are correct. We are unique, though. That is only written into special rules for the Harbor Commission. So there is a set of special rules that, again, we differ from. And so I've been slowly trying to share this with the group over time, but there is effort from council's level to sort of streamline boards and commissions. So that process is occurring away from us. And so it's a bigger city effort. There's 30-plus boards and commissions. For whatever reason, there is that clause. But even council themselves, no individual council member can set an agenda item. Staff brings agenda items, and they have a two-member memo process. And so we are different in that way. And so there is written word for that. I don't anticipate that that is council's intention going forward.
Oops, now we're going that. I mean, I thought that when I read the charter, and we're a charter established commission, we're not, I mean, I understand that you may have too many advisory committees and that needs to be looked at and reduced and all of that, but we are a charter established commission, which is different. And one of the things that I read in there a long time ago was that we've got rules, that there are rules that each commission essentially approves. And our rules, as approved, do exactly what Merritt is describing. It allows each of us, either through the chair or as individuals, to bring an item onto the agenda. And I'm assuming that's the case, and unless you change the charter or those rules that we all agree on, then we can do exactly what Merritt's describing.
Commissioner Nelson, the only catch there is those rules are approved by council, not by Harbor Commission. And so the rules that govern boards and commissions are council's rules, that they're not decided at the board and commission level. And so it is ultimately a council decision on how those rules are structured. Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yeah, I'm just reading it, and it actually, so suggestions and changes to the rules actually are submitted to council after their approval by the Board of Harbor Commissioners at the regular meeting. So I would assume that if we need to let council know that we don't want them to take that away, maybe we should put that on the agenda for the November meeting, if that's possible. An agenda for, I'm not sure how quickly this process is going. It's being worked on at a city level, and so did you want more granularity on what's going on with boards and commissions at a city level, or to put an item on the future agenda to Well, I'm just
withhold-
looking over the document that everyone's talking about, which is the commissioner's rules, which is here, and actually any commissioner can put an item on the agenda if it's provided to the waterfront office 10 days before the meeting. And those, when you're saying that these rules come from city council, I'm just reading the, right from the document, which says that we vote on it and send that to city council. So what I'm just suggesting is if the commissioners here don't want the city council to take away that special right of our commission, that perhaps we need to have an agenda item in November where we can discuss that and send that recommendation to city council, which is what it says within this document.
Yeah, I'll have to get back with the attorney because I don't know, this document is the document that is supposed to be created by council. And so council has the authority over making decisions of that nature for boards and commissions. And so I don't know the legality or where the original rules, that document came from, if it was created by Harbor Commission or by council, but it is supposed to be created by council. So,
Well, it says in here, I mean, this is the document that you gave me when I became a harbor commissioner, and it says it was revised in 2010. I mean, I have to assume that what's provided to me is
no, it's in place. It's in place for Harbor Commission. It is.
Could we have that conversation at the November meeting if we want to send a recommendation to city council?
I'll check with the attorney if that's appropriate or where that is going with that process, because I don't know the answer to that.
Well, according to this document, it's 10 days out from our meeting. So you let us know. Thank you.
I think one comment is we don't want to get out over our skis on this. I mean, it's not being challenged currently, that right. Well,
That's not what I heard.
I believe Director Wiltshire is talking about a trajectory, a bureaucratic trajectory is in motion now. But where are we at on that spectrum? I mean, it seems pretty vague.
City administration is meeting to discuss having more uniformity between boards and commissions. Over time, they have gotten very scattered and disjointed. We are used regularly as an example that is a outlier with the number of work groups, subcommittees we have, and some of these other kind of side rules. So there is a internal discussion with city administration and city council to streamline that process. What that looks like and how long that's going to take, I don't have an answer. Another approach is you're welcome to reach out to council members. I will reach out to council members and our city administration to see where we're at with that process and come back to you with more information.
Yeah, I think a priori to challenging, something that hasn't been taken away, we might want to add some fidelity to a forecast of that bureaucratic trajectory. And I think that's a reasonable wish, right? I mean, somebody knows, if there's a goal, right? Like, let's get this done in 6 months, or because you have been talking about it for a year, right? So it's obviously not a fast-moving process.
I'm sorry, did I misunderstand, though? Did you, what I understood from your comments was that city council, that we are an outlier in being able to put items onto the agenda, and that it's your understanding that city council is working to have more uniformity, and that most likely, it seemed to me like there was at least an inference that right to put things on our agenda will not be retained once there is uniformity between the guidelines from city council.
Direction to me has always been from attorneys and city administration that staff sets agendas and brings topics to boards and commissions for advisory input. And so we are an outlier in that because of that document. So there were some folks that weren't aware of that document. I was, because I'm in the waterfront and overseeing the Harbor Commission meetings. And so I brought that to the table within the last 6 months or so, and it was called out as an outlier, saying that's.
So you basically identified the problem, that we were a problem.
No, I said, this is how this works, and we have a governing document that says something different than what the city was trying to do with their boards and commissions.
Okay. But did I understand you right when you said that there is a process in place to remove that right that our commission has, which is unique to our commission?
Not necessarily. There is a process in place to bring more uniformity to the city's boards and commissions so that they operate more uniformly. And while bringing that to attention, it struck me as something that was outside of how other boards and commissions operate.
Fair enough. You'll get back to me on being able to have a conversation about it in November.
I'll get back to the entire commission.
Thank you.
Commissioner McCray?
I think I'm rather proud to be an outlier. We're sailors, and sailors and cowboys have always been the outliers.
It's the Pirate Commission, Mike. Come on.
Commissioner Ford has her hand up.
Yes, Commissioner Ford.
Thanks. As I understand it, and I appreciate a little understanding since I'm new, but that this is a process to create a list. And is there also a process by which, I don't know what I would say, like from the last year's list of priorities that you present a state of the state or something like that, where you give the commission a status on the list from last year? And the other part of my question is there ever any opportunity for the public to weigh in on ideas for priorities?
Yeah, Commissioner Ford, great questions. Yeah, my hope was to open up the meeting in January with sort of a status update and a snapshot of everything we've done in the past year. Everything we said we'd do, everything we did, and everything we did in addition to what we did and what we didn't get to. These are all public meetings, so the public can and participate in the January meeting as well. It'll be a agendized, open public meeting for people to participate, so they can weigh in the process while you're there, give public comment, submit public comment just as they can for this meeting.
Has the commission ever had a town hall of sorts about any issues?
Well, not a town hall specifically, but I'd say that the cruise ship subcommittee meetings are as close to a town hall as you could get. So we have a subcommittee who's held several public meetings with dozens and dozens of folks there, speaking their points, giving their opinions. There was similar work outreach done when we do major policy updates, like the most recent one was a major parking policy overhaul. There was community outreach and community meetings around that to kind of gather input from all sides.
And on the SLIP subcommittee too, I think SLIP policy that ran
point.
for a protracted period of time, filled a big gap during COVID and moved along very slowly. So, any other questions, Commissioner Cohen? By the way, good eye from across the lectern here.
We don't have our button.
I know, yeah, I don't have a screen, so
Yeah, we're missing our.
we had that technology and then it,
Our button, so.
yeah, our button went away. What the heck? So, thank you very much, Director Wiltshire. I guess we'll move on to item number 7, Harbor Operations Report.
Hello again, Commissioners. So Harbor Operations Report tonight is relatively short. I have two, I feel, fun topics on the agenda here. So the first topic is the Harbor Watch meeting. Harbor Watch meetings, just like familiar neighborhood watch groups in residential areas, have been instrumental in supporting this atmosphere of cooperation among the harbor community and Harbor Patrol, with a common goal of making the harbor a safer place for everyone. So on Tuesday, November 21st at 6 p.m., the upcoming Harbor Watch meeting will take place in the waterfront classroom, which you've got a picture of here. It's upstairs there. Most of you have been there. This session's primary focus will be on fire safety, tailored specifically to the unique challenges faced within marinas. So participants can expect to receive training on identifying fire hazards common to marinas and learn practical techniques to suppress vessel fires. During the meeting, Harbor Patrol officers will provide hands-on demonstrations showing the proper use of fire extinguishers, as well as the fire hose box within a marina. So flyers will be displayed on marina display boards advertising the meeting, which is open to the public. And I extend a special invitation to liveaboards. They are oftentimes the first to notice anything out of the ordinary. So mark your calendars for November 21st, 6 p.m. waterfront classroom. You can show up and engage with Harbor Patrol officers. And it's a great opportunity to ask them all kinds of questions related to safety and have an opportunity to learn about fire safety. That is it on the Harbor Watch meeting. Do I have any questions about that?
Yes, Commissioner McCray has a question, I think.
I think you have one more thing to cover for, you have one more item to cover on this. Is that it? On this agenda item?
That is my, did I miss something?
From Harbor Operations, yes.
All right, so I just want to ask if anything is going on at the harbor this weekend. What do you got going?
Well, you're going to be barbecuing. And so is Commissioner Nelson.
I'm going to be boiling.
You're going to be boiling? No, you're going to be barbecuing.
No, it's
Mary
boiling
decided
again.
he didn't want my help.
Okay, well, you're going to be cooking. So Seafood Festival is this weekend, is Saturday, 10 a.m. Yeah, so that is what's going on, yeah.
Is that a big event?
It's huge. You're going to be cooking all day long. Thank you, Commissioner McCray. And Nelson. Yeah, okay, so the second item on the ops report is Parade of Lights. So I realize I'm reporting this to you a little early. Normally, we bring this to you during the November meeting. But we are sending applications for the boat parade in the slip holders bills. So since they're going to be out there in the population, I feel I should mention this now. So Parade of Lights, December 10th. We're planning a number of activities, so you can see here on the slide, the day will open probably earlier than 3, but we will have 10 tons of snow on the city pier for folks of all ages to play in. What's not listed on here is a visit from Mr. and Mrs., or Santa and Mrs. Claus. They will be arriving, I believe Harbor Patrol is going to be picking them up around 2 in the afternoon. So Santa can visit with the children and hear their wishes. At 5 p.m. on Stearns Wharf, we will have a tree lighting ceremony that will take place while listening to the Dos Pueblos Jazz Choir, which is actually a pretty special thing. The Christmas tree is beautiful. You can see in this image here. Then the boat parade. So we have a 2-part boat parade, or parade. One half is the boats and the other half is human-powered craft. So at 3:30 p.m., the human-powered craft parade will commence, and then at 5:30 kicks off the boat parade. So along those lines, these are the 2 parade routes. On the left, we've got the human-powered folks. There will be in kayaks and stand-up paddle boards and heavily decorated. They'll go over to the wharf and go down and around and hook a U-turn and then come back. And at 5:30 p.m., the boats will start queuing up. You see the circle. You can see it pretty well in front of the yacht club, actually. They'll circle up while they figure out their order, and then head on over past Area 3 that we were talking about earlier today, and then motor up the coast, and then alongside Stearns Wharf, and then back to their home slips. This year, the theme is Holiday Disco Extravaganza. Holiday Disco Extravaganza. So this is, if you wanted to participate in the parade, this is the QR code that'll take you to the application. There are awards for best decorations to the theme, Holiday Disco Extravaganza. So it will be really fun this year, I think, to see boats decorated to that theme. I'm pretty excited. It's a super fun parade, in my opinion. There will be an after party at the Anchor Rose restaurant in the harbor, which will be a lot of fun. Amy Rose last year had some live music playing, and all of the participants in the parade and the human parade were there, still wearing their outfits and listening to music and having appetizers and drinks and whatnot. So it was a lot of fun. That is my report on the Parade of Lights. Are there any questions about that?
Commissioner Anderson.
How long does the snow last? Because I brought a large group last year around 5:30 or 6, and we couldn't find any snow. How long does 10 tons of snow last on the pier? Obviously, it depends a little bit on the weather, but in general, how far off
Not
was
till
I?
5:30 or 6 on
Yeah, I
that
was
day.
waiting for the lighting and the snow. It was not there. How long did it last last year?
Yeah, I mean, so when it first arrives, you know, our maintenance staff does a lot of work to kind of fluff it up, you know, because kids are playing in it, and when it's compacted, it's kind of flaky, not like powder snow. So they fluff it up, but yeah, if it's warm out, it's going to get a little slushy, and then it melts and goes through the deck boards. So I don't know. So I will find out what time the snow is arriving. It's not on order just yet, but I'll let you know. That way you can show up early and enjoy it while it's powder. Okay.
Found just a wet spot.
There's a bunch of sad kids, I promise.
Yeah, I will not forget that. I will make sure that I'll keep you posted on when it's arriving.
Thank you. Other than missing the snow, we had a great time out there on the pier. It was a great environment.
Great. I forgot to mention the fireworks, I just realized. So there is going to be a fireworks display at the end of the boat parade. So the fireworks usually happens at about 7 p.m. It'll be a 5-minute display, very similar to 4th of July, same area that they'll be detonated from. So the best place to view the boat parade as well as the fireworks, in my opinion, is Stearns Wharf. You can get both of those really well, and then head on over to Anchor Rose at the end. Okay, and are there any other last questions?
Commissioner Nelson?
My only observation is our chair was unable to perform his duties as judge at the parade of the boats. And so I sat in for him.
Thank you.
To perform that function. But I made the mistake to go to the Anchor Rose afterwards, and the people that I knew there wanted me to defend the decisions that were made by the panel. These folks take their decorated boats very seriously. It was a great time.
Yes, they do, as well as they should, I guess. Sorry about that. We'll protect you this time. Okay.
Commissioner Ford?
And just one note, I'm happy that by this time, the new dark coffee at the Maritime Museum should be open too.
Make a little revenue? Excellent. Any other questions or rule references? Anything? Nothing? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette. Moving on to you, Caesar.
Good evening again, Chair and Commissioners. Okay, so just today I bring you a brief update on regarding the Santa Barbara Fuel Dock, Inc., which is the name of the business that operates the fuel dock, as it exercised the first 5-year lease extension with another 3 consecutive 5-year extensions remaining, or options remaining. So the fuel dock entered into this lease agreement with the city back in February of 2019. As a tenant, they are in good standing. They are responsible and reliable and have been over the years. It is worth mentioning that at the end of 2019, they completed the underground fuel storage tank replacement project as part of the lease continuance, which is, I will discuss further here. But overall, this lease extension will provide stability and continuity of essential services for boaters and maritime activities from the Santa Barbara Harbor. So a little bit of history here. This facility has been in operation since the 1950s, as first it opened by Union Oil Company of California, better known as Unocal. Then in 2003, a local fuel distributor, McCormick's Corporation, assumed the fuel dock lease via RFP process. Since then, McCormick's created a new corporation that was very recent, known as Santa Barbara Fuel Dock, Inc., with the same ownership and entities from McCormick's. So in 2019, in response to regulations set by the Health and Safety Code, 4 single-wall underground fuel storage tanks serving the fuel dock were replaced with 3 double-wall tanks. During this project, the waterfront department, the fuel dock, worked very closely with the waterfront department and our tenants to minimize project impacts. As you may recall, it was a significant project in the Harbor Way area. On that regard, the completion of this project demonstrated that their commitment to the harbor community and the boating community, and also by maintaining and keeping up with standards and regulations. And again, I point this out because it was part of their agreement as far as the lease to maintain and upkeep with all the regulations set by the state. So another important component, an essential service provided by this business is the operation of the ice house. However, they do this under a separate license agreement with the waterfront department. So the Field Dock has operated the ice house for over 30 years, it's like early 80s. And they play an essential role within the community and especially with the commercial fishing industry. So this license agreement to operate the ice house recently expired, like earlier in this month. So right now we're on a month-to-month and actively negotiating the new terms. The process has changed overall. The department has invested significant capital funds to maintain the operation, and having Field Dock operating this business is essential since they're right next door to the actual ice house facility. And then just to conclude, as we extend this lease agreement for another 5 years, it is important for me to note that the Field Dock has fulfilled all their obligations and have met all the terms of the lease agreement over the years, which include replacement of the tanks that I just spoke about. And overall, they're showing their commitment to the harbor community, and I want to point out they're essential to the harbor and also the commercial fishing industry. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions or take any comments.
Commissioner Craig?
Do we have a proposed action for this item?
Commissioner McCray, no, this is just an update, just a report, just to update you on the process that they've decided to extend their lease for another 5 years with the contingency that they've replaced the fuel tanks. So it kind of goes side by side with that process. So it's primarily informational.
Thank you.
Commissioner Anderson?
Just a question on the ice house. Was it good to hear that, or interesting to hear that, that it's operated by the same group? And I remember from our budget meetings, do we set the price of ice? And so how do they, that's interesting that we set the price by the equipment and they just kind of operate it. Or maybe give me a little more color on exactly how that.
Commissioner Anderson, that is correct. So we set the price, so it went up from 5 cents per pound to 10 cents per pound with a minimum purchase of 200 pounds. And that's overall, it's very economical. I mean, it's compared to commercial, not commercial, just retail costs per se. So the license agreement, the city pays the ice house to operate, the Fuel Dock to operate this facility and provide the ice. So if somebody shows up to fuel up their vessel, either private or commercial, and they choose to fill their holding tank, they can do so right at the facility instead of having to go somewhere else and get ice and wheel it over to their vessel.
It seems like a unique kind of agreement that, right, that we set the price for it and they
We pay
operate?
them a flat fee monthly, so I believe it's $700 per month. We pay the Fuel Dock because they're right there to sort of staff it and
Oh,
fill
it's the same guy
It's the
that'll.
people who do the
gotcha.
Fuel Dock are right there, because it would be really
Yeah.
inconvenient to deal with it any other way, so.
And do you foresee any issues making it, moving from month to month to locking it in more long-term? Is it kind of like they're on board, it's just small steps of signing paperwork, or are they questioning if it's worth their time to operate it, or what's the?
That is correct, yes. So at the culmination of their license agreement, they expressed the need to renegotiate the lease. The license. So currently, actively this week, we've been in discussions with them and trying to come to an agreement on how we're going to move it forward.
If they walk, is it as easy, do we have someone that can operate it for the fishermen in the meantime?
Well, they're still operating. My understanding, since they're on a month-to-month, they're still operating the facility. We're hoping to come to a solution within the 30 days. That's my goal. I feel we're in the right path. So we just have to go through the process as far as paperwork.
But do we have a plan B if in the negotiations they say, we don't want to do it anymore? Do we have someone on our team that can operate to give everyone ice if we need it?
We have. I mean, first off, we reached out to the commercial fleet fishing and expressed the situation. And then we've come up with a process, a temporary process on how we would operate it, either having somebody just call a number, contact the front counter via radio or via phone, and somebody will come up during specific hours to sell ice. I mean, annually, they sell about $35,000 worth of ice, just to give you a perspective on the usage. Monthly generates in the summertime just between $3,000 and $4,000, but in January it's only $800 to $900. So it is relative to the weather and also to how the fishing fleet.
Commissioner, the tough thing is it's not a money-making business. And so if we were to kind of go out to an RFP or have somebody operate it, the cost of actually we subsidize it so heavily that if someone were to do it as a business, it wouldn't make sense. And so us having them do it because they have the labor right there on site makes a lot of sense. So hopefully we can kind of continue that long-standing agreement to where they can operate the fuel dock and also kind of in conjunction operate the ice house.
Commissioner Nelson?
Certainly makes a lot of sense. But in other words, you pay a stipend to the fuel dock company for Scotty and Dano?
That is correct, yes.
Because I don't know if you've ever been on the wrong side of Scotty. We want to make sure he's taken care of. He is the front-facing element of.
Commissioner Nessel, just to clarify, we pay the fuel dock directly. So our agreement is with the Fuel Dock Inc., and then they pay their employees, which
So you do a
trickles down.
subsidy. You basically subsidize their employees for operating the ice house.
The Fuel Dock Incorporated is a company, and they
Right.
have employees, and they pay them out on salary or hourly or however they choose to pay them. We have a license agreement with Fuel Dock Incorporated, so we pay Fuel Dock Incorporated $700 a
Okay.
month to operate the ice house. However they see fit to do that, and they manage how they pay their labor to do that.
Okay. Commissioner McCray?
I was just thinking maybe we should work this out during the seafood festival with Scotty and Dano and California, or Santa Barbara commercial fishermen.
Any public comment, Angela?
There's nobody with their hands raised at the moment, but if anyone would like to speak, they can indicate that by clicking the raise hand icon. Still not seeing any hands.
Any other questions?
Okay, we can move on. Any staff communications?
Just another huge plug for this Saturday. The Harbor and Seafood Festival is probably the largest event that we've put on, and staff has been working diligently all this week. So come down Saturday and enjoy the fruits of those labors, including the fruits of Commissioner Nelson and McCray's labors. So I saw him personally last year, and that guy was working.
Nice, yeah. I'll be there. Lobster for breakfast. So. All right. Any commission updates?
I just want, go ahead.
No, sorry.
I just wanted to say I express some appreciation for the hard-working people in our current working groups. Call out Commissioner Anderson and Commissioner Cohen. You guys are doing a stellar job with the cruise ship subcommittee. So good work. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure working with you guys.
Glad to have you a part of it.
Of
I'm-
course, yeah, same.
I'm like an observer, so that's, you guys are doing all the work.
Great. I just have one question, just for staff. I know that during the director's report, you said, we could reach out to council members and stuff. I've been trying to reach out to Parks Department regarding the West Beach wading pool. I've been, emails, phone calls, besides physically going to their office. Is there a recommended way to contact other members of board or other departments for I guess, advice or updates on stuff?
Yeah, you can go through me, or I'm happy to provide you a contact as well if you're kind of running into a dead end. So, yeah.
Okay.
I'm happy to help you with that.
Okay, great. No, that's good to know. All right, final item, adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.